Welcome to episode 100 of the Rocker Dog Podcast, the show that talks to musicians about their dogs and the positive aspects these creatures bring to their lives. I'm your host, Tim Dill, and along for the ride is my ride or die, Charlie the Golden Doodle. And today we are happy to be celebrating this milestone episode with Jaret Reddick of the Grammy-nominated Pop Punkers Bowling for Soup, who will be kicking off their A Hangover You Don't Deserve 20th anniversary tour on July 17th at the Fox Theater in Hays, Kansas. And these are his beloved rocker dogs.
Well, my pack is a colorful one. Right now, my oldest is Milo. He is a Boxer Mastiff who is a rescue of 13 puppies that they found in where I was living previously to here, in Highland Village, Texas, actually. And then after him is Hazel, who is a English Mastiff. We consider her a rescue. We actually bought her from like a trades day flea market thing, but we knew she was going to be there. She was advertised on this site as being like sort of last chance. She was 13 weeks. And, basically, I'm not sure what they would have done with her had someone not taken her, but, she was basically marked down to sell. And so, again, we did buy her from a breeder, but we consider her a rescue. And then we have our bougie dog, Sammy. We actually got her specifically to have a very active dog for our active son. She is a Australian Shepherd. And she is going on 2 years old and just full of fire and keeps us all entertained.
I bet. I mean, I've learned so much just from doing this show, and one of them is that the Aussie Shepherds are highly intelligent and highly energetic.
Yeah, highly intelligent, highly energetic. I had a border collie before we got Milo, and a Yorkie as well. And both those dogs now live on my back, tattooed on my back. And but my border collie certainly had the intelligence and definitely had a lot of energy. There's something about the Australian Shepherd, though, as far as this one, she's much more like in your lap and on you. And my border collie was always wanting to play and stuff like that, but really preferred to be sort of at our feet.
Right.
And so my Australian Shepherd, I have this thing, I'll just pat my chest and she comes up into the hug position and puts her face against mine and just lets me hold her like a baby. And I just pat her butt and she will just leave her cheek on my cheek. And I love it so much. And when we have people over and she's kind of jumping all over them, I'm like, I'm sorry, I know we could break her of this, but I enjoy her being on me and she's my dog. So you guys will just have to, she lives here. So going back to my dad used to say that about his little toy poodle who was, annoying as heck. But he would say to his friends, hey, she lives here. Don't forget that.
Yeah. She's family.
Yeah.
So a couple of notes I had on each dog. Back to Hazel, was that transaction done under the influence? Because I thought there was a post saying you had one too many mimosas and you couldn't put her down after she looked into your eyes.
Oh, yeah. Wow, you do your research. Yes, it was Father's Day, and we had been at brunch way too long, and it was bottomless mimosas. And yes, again, we knew that we had known just from this website that she was going to be there. But then once we saw her, once I had her in my arms, and she wasn't little, Mastiffs are huge, but 13 weeks, man, she was already, like a large dog. And, I just fell in love with her. And yeah, there's a quote my wife likes to tell about me waking up the next day and saying, did I just buy a dog that's going to be the size of a horse yesterday? And so, of course, I remembered it. But yes, I was heavily under the influence. And man, I am a sucker. I can't even walk down the dog aisle at those things, and I can't go to one of my good friends. His mom recently passed away. It was a sad story, but what came out of it was this little 3-year-old little dog. I don't even know what it is, man. It's just like this white dog. So they were going to rehome it. And they were like, hey, if you guys know anybody that would want to take this dog, let us know. She's really sweet. She's house trained. She's like, she's super calm because his mom was older and, really not super active. And I was like, no, I just want to hold that little girl, man. Like, let us come over. I just want to play with her. And my wife was like, we will be over after she's promised to another home. Because if we go over there and I start holding that dog, it's gonna live here.
Yeah.
So and she's not far off. It's a lot of work having, how it is. I'm sure all dog owners say it's like, the kids are gonna help, but
Yeah.
it definitely falls back to us. So yeah, she's definitely I'm very glad we got her. But yeah, it's a big day.
I love it. And then Sammy, you said it seems, and you just described Sammy as, the way you hug her, but likes your wife better.
Well, not anymore. So what's
Okay.
funny is so when we got Sammy, I'm like Snow White, basically. Like I don't know what it is. All animals just love me. And in my house, like the only person that my cat curls up on the lap or comes and sits by or whatever is me. But so when we first got Sammy, I was on the road quite a bit. We got her for Everett a couple of years ago for his birthday. Puppies are a lot of work. She was a lot of work. She got sick, and I don't really remember the specifics of what it was, but what they thought it was something that was fatal, and she ended up in the hospital. And turns out working with we were kind of glad we worked with the breeder, actually, because the breeder came back and said it's not this, it's going to be have them test for this other thing, it's going to be that, and we're going to
Hmm.
pay for it. And they did, and it was great. And so Sammy had to recoup from that. But we call her our bougie dog because in fact, yesterday this happened. She has a very sensitive stomach. And so if she gets into something that she's not supposed to, any people food, like a kid gives her something or whatever, like it tears her stomach up. And I mean, it is gross diarrhea all in her, and they're kennel trained. So they sleep in there. And so she'll, it sucks because she'll have it on her. And so it's a bath and cleaning the floor and the whole thing. But so the reason I say that is because the first several months, my wife, who really wasn't the poop or puke cleaner upper, was now suddenly having to do it. And they had a really big bond because that she was taking her to the hospital and picking her up from the hospital, which you pick a dog, a little puppy up from the hospital that where they've been locked in a little kennel and scared and shit, and you pick them up, and then they're gonna be very attached to you.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they were very, very close. And Casey actually took Sammy to puppy school and all of that. But like what happens with with all other animals, I get in my chair and they are all on top of me. So and I say to my son will just be like, why can't they like me, like whatever? And I'm like, I don't know, I don't do funny laughs and like pulling her legs and stuff,
Yeah.
like. But yeah, she definitely keeps us on our toes.
Great. And then Milo, aside from being named after the Descendants singer, I
Yeah.
have a note about him pooping on top of the couch.
Yeah, so Casey says that because I call Milo the perfect dog because he, knock on wood, whatever, but he doesn't get sick. He doesn't really do anything wrong. Like you can tell when one of the other dogs has done something because he'll just have the face of guilt.
Right.
Um, but my wife says you've just shut out him as a puppy because he really was a terrible puppy.
Hmm.
He would poop on the top of this red couch that we had, and I mean
Oh
we'd
my
have to
gosh.
take him all off the pillows and like on the pillows, like not, I mean, like I just it was just weird. And then we had to move twice because we moved to an apartment while our house was getting done, and he was in this one of those pop-up crates, like for when we were gone, because again,
Hmm.
they're kennel trained. And so we would come home and he would have that thing moved across the apartment, and it collapsed on him, and he's just in there, and it just like because he was just crazy, and he would eat furniture, and so he definitely had his time of being a little troublemaker. But it's again, that was he's 14, so
Yeah.
that was a long time ago. Well, no, I'm sorry, he's not 14, he's 11. Again, I think I do sort of forget. how just awful of a puppy he was.
Yeah. That's the only way to survive sometimes is to forget the trauma of the puppy years.
Yeah, you sort of just block it out, and it's just one of those things. But he's so sweet now, and he just everybody just loves him, and he's getting older. But I will say it's Sammy has really got him up and active, and because she wrestles with him every night, and they do their time, and the rest of the time he's kind of just laying around because he's getting up there. He's all gray in the face now, and
Yeah.
but he's my sweet boy.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about Allie that you mentioned. I got the impression, again, going through your social media, that Allie was had a profound effect on you.
Yeah,
She seemed to come around at a certain time in your life. And
yeah,
I know you're very open about mental health and destigmatizing it for others.
for sure.
Kind of give me a context of that relationship.
Yeah, Allie, first of all, so my parents had toy poodles,
Hmm.
and they were yippy dogs that just barked all the time, and they pooped and peed all over the house all the time. They were never really house trained. So, I stepped in that barefooted and in socks and in shoes my entire childhood. And I hate to say that I hated these dogs, but man, I did not like them very much. Like I pet them and I was kind to them and all that, but just I was like, I'm never having a little dog. Like
Yeah.
I'm never doing that. So I was actually with my ex-wife at I guess what would be my last Christmas with her at her dad's side, and her sister. They had three Yorkies, but they had rescued this. Basically, someone at his work had come in and said, "Hey, I found this dog in the rain. We're looking for its owner, but we can't seem to find anything." And they were like, "Well, we'll take it in." And I was just holding this little dog that they had had for a couple of weeks, and I ended up going home with it. It rode home with me, sitting in my lap while I was driving, and she just instantly took to me, and we were inseparable from then on. And so that, she and I really, really had a great bond. And it was about halfway through that year where my wife and I finally separated and went to different houses and
Hmm.
things. And so we had a border collie together, and that dog went with the kids. So we were every other week. She would take their border collie and the kids, and her and Allie just didn't hit it off. They just didn't have a relationship. So Allie stayed with me. So essentially, me and Allie began this journey of us being alone every other week, and then what would become my 2 or 3 darkest years of my life. It was around that time where depression, anxiety started to set in. Kind of just to summarize it all, but keeping it about Allie. I within just a short amount of time, was in couples therapy, and then was getting a divorce, and then shortly, then a year later had to go through custody battle, and then, I moved 2 times, but one time to a completely different city. Started in a new relationship, adopted my young son who was 1 at the time, so became a dad again. My doctor, when he was breaking it down for me, when we finally started to kind of get to the bottom of what was going on with me, was like, any one of these things can send somebody spiraling out of control, or
Right.
like to some mental health issues can arise from this. You just had 7 of them happen at once. You have to understand what this can do to you and all of that. And so, you know, that started me into, finally giving in and starting to take a little bit of medication, and then getting into therapy and all of that. But, Allie was there for me when I got home, excited to see me no matter what mood I was in. If I couldn't get out of bed and I just needed to lay there all day in the fetal position and just exist, she was
Hmm.
there. And then, and she passed away well, around 3 years ago. So the year before we got Sammy, and it was really hard.
Yeah.
It was that sent me. I still am not really over it. It's I comment on a lot of people that lose pets on the internet, because I think that there, and especially where I live in Texas, there's a lot of dudes that get dogs. And they get
Right.
dogs for various reasons, for hunting or for this or whatever. And it's just like, yeah, I got this dog. Now I'm going to get this other dog, and Allie wasn't that for me. She was, ooh, she was everything, man. It was, again, she got me through some pretty dark days.
Yeah.
And I knew I needed to be there for her.
Yeah.
So anyway, I still have a little bit of trouble with it. but
Yeah.
uh but she sits on my fireplace, and there's God, it was just so great when she passed away. Fans came out of the woodwork, but like really talented fans, like that made me like these paintings of her that are like I have a few that are just I mean it's her, like they captured the look in her eyes. And so there's one right by where I sit at the kitchen table and pay bills, or if I'm sitting there, with that where we eat or whatever, she's just right over my shoulder. And then I have a reminder of her on the mantle in my house as well. And it's funny. I do really think that sometimes these things, these little animals are angels. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know really what I would have done without her at that time. Again, it sort of kept me ground. It made me, because I was out, drinking and just really just self-destructing, if we're being
Right.
totally honest. And I had to go home and feed her and let her out. Like but that's just one aspect of it, right?
Yeah.
Then I would feel bad because she was alone all day, and so then I'm like, well, I'm not gonna go anywhere tomorrow. I mean, I need to be around, and she can lay there at my feet, and I'll actually work on music today. So I like to think that we found each other at the perfect time for both of us. I know she had a great life. My kids loved her, and she certainly kept anybody delivering packages or coming into our door on their feet, because I think that maybe the people who had her before me might have been like senior citizens or something,
Hmm.
because she was very chill, but she was very, very protective.
Yeah.
Um, and so, anybody coming in the yard or whatever, I'd be like, hey, wait a minute, let me pick this dog up first. Like, she needs to smell you before I put her down, or you're getting your ankle bit.
I love to hear it. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I know sometimes it's very difficult to, but I gear this show all around trying to show people the value that these dogs can bring to our lives, and I think us dog people realize that, but it'd be great to expand that message and draw more people into the benefits.
Yeah, well, I certainly don't ever mind sharing my story, if even though I get upset when I talk about her, that honestly, I'm an emotional guy, and it's something that I just am not over her. And I've lost people, and again, yesterday was Mother's Day, and my grandmother died late last year, and of course that was very painful, but that doesn't even have the same effect on me.
Yeah.
And that was somebody that was really, really important to me in my life and my development, and supporting me and all of those things. But it's just there's just I had to talk through this in therapy. I'm like, I don't is that okay? Like, is it all right that I don't feel this insane loss when people die? And you can't, he's like, you don't have control over that,
Yeah.
and but yeah, I mean, there's just like I said, when I see people losing pets, and maybe I'm just hyper aware of it now.
Yeah.
um, I always try and send a note going, hey, it's real grief, like it's legitimate grief, and you don't have to put a clock on it, and you don't have to get through it any faster than you would losing literally anything else.
Yeah.
It can be really hard.
Yeah. Well, I love that your band altogether seems to be a dog-friendly band.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, we are.
Chris he's very well known for his dog Sherman passed, but he's got Wally now.
Yep. Sherman was on the road his entire life. Wally also tours, so U.S. touring only. But yeah, they were both bus dogs. Sherman was literally brought in like when at a really busy time in our career, and he was specifically to be a touring dog.
Right.
Um, and but yeah, the bond that Chris has with his dogs too is they're never apart. I mean, he takes them everywhere. Chris has
Yeah.
this thing that he does. He'll just walk in somewhere with the dog, and somebody will be like, oh, hey, excuse me, sir. We don't we sorry, we don't allow dogs in here. And Chris will just go, oh no, he's cool, and just keep walking. And they're just like, what they don't know what to do. I'm like, you just use the force, like how do you do that? It's a magic power. But yeah, Sherman Sherman had his own bar stool at the bar where Chris went, and I think Wally might share in that. Chris's favorite bar has a huge painting of Sherman in it.
That's great.
And Sherman's been on tons and tons of artwork, and now Wally finds his way onto stuff. And so yeah, definitely a big part of our machine has always been, what Chris is bringing along for the ride.
Yeah, that's great. And I know that you had a Suicide Machines cover, Sometimes I Don't Mind, that was
Yeah.
kind of dog centric, supported a shelter.
Yeah, we did, and that one I don't remember which of Chris's dogs was in it, but then you got to see Piper, Rob's dog, and Benny, Gary's dog, and Piper actually just passed very
I'm
recently, and
sorry to
they
hear that.
already have another one. I think they did the thing where maybe they went in a little too soon because they
Right.
they have a baby at home too, and now they've got this wire-haired dachshund.
Yeah,
But they seem to be settling in just fine.
that's great. Those dachshunds are awesome. If I just pronounce the name
Yeah.
Dachshund.
Yeah, and again, both all three of their dogs rescues. So, we try and keep everything to rescues.
Yeah. Well, listen, I end every show with what I call the Zoomies, and that's five fast, frivolous questions. Number
Okay?
one is, do you kiss your dogs on the mouth?
100%. I try to go for the cheek, but I can't help it if they turn their heads.
Okay. That is the correct answer in my book.
Yeah.
Question two is, do any of them have a specific theme song that you can attach to them?
Huh, I don't think so. We call Hazel Dopey Dope because she just is just this big lug. So every once in a while I do find myself doing the when she's walking, but no, I don't think any of them have a theme song.
Okay, no worries. Question three, I know your three current dogs don't tour with you, but if they did, what would they want on the tour rider?
Well, Sammy has a toy box and she's very particular about which toy she wants to play with it. So she will literally dig through and find the one toy that she wants to play with at
That's
that
so
time,
funny.
and it's not always the same. And
It's
so
funny.
I haven't quite taught her to clean up after herself yet, but maybe that'll happen. But she would need a box of toys, and the other two would be fine just with an antler to chew on.
Right.
And honestly, man, just a place to lay down.
A bunk on the bus.
Yep.
Okay, question four is, do you use a dog voice to speak to your dogs?
I talk to all of them in sort of different lingo. Yes, I do. Because we didn't do baby talk. We didn't talk to our kids
Yeah.
by using voices, but really Allie was the one where I would just be like, "Oh, there she is, my little princess girl." I will admit I don't quite do that to the others as much as I did to her, but every once in a while they get a little playful voice from me.
Do you give any of them a voice? Do you personify as
Oh,
if this
give
is
them
what
a
they?
voice. I
No,
see
but
what you're saying.
that's a two-part question. You
Oh,
answered it
okay.
correctly.
What's funny about that? So the Dolly Rots had a dog named Keto, and Lewis from the Dolly Rots had a voice for him, and it was so funny. He would have full-on conversations back and forth and all of that. And so I guess I really don't because my wife and I are always together, and so I think
Hmm.
it's always just like us. We sort of just go, you know what she's saying, go F yourself or whatever. Like I'm not going through that door, because mastiffs are so funny, man. Like they won't go around anything. Like if there's a pillow in the way, they will just stand there and bark at it. Like you move the pillow and then they will walk. It's so wild. But no, I guess I don't do that.
Okay. Okay, last but not least, I always ask if there's a dog organization or a service, if you want to shout out anybody that kind of helps you with your dogs.
We are big ASPCA. Is that right?
Yep.
ASPCA. We give every year. The band also tries to help when we can. I mean, honestly, anytime you can give to an organization like that, support your local shelter. If they're asking for money, it's because they need it,
Yep.
and they do really do great, great work for these poor animals that don't have a home, and something we always try and stay involved in. But we do sort of go. It's the ASPCA of Texas that we do here that we normally give our money to.
Okay.
And so yeah, but that's pretty much where we stick to it.
Okay. That works for me. Going into the summer, any big plans to kind of finish the summer off?
Yeah, so we're I'm doing country gigs in between Bowling for Soup gigs. But the big thing is our 30th anniversary tour, celebrating 20 years of Hangover You Don't Deserve, starts in July. And I'll also be doing some country shows in July and August in between those dates. Same with September, October, and then I believe, to Australia in December, and a few odds and it. Oh, full country tour for me in November. So just a busy year, and just really thankful to be out here doing it.
Awesome. Well, we'll keep an eye out for you and bring you some dogs to visit you if you get near us.
That would be great. We will always welcome that.
Awesome. But Jaret, I appreciate your time, and I've kind of known of you. I think you were suggested to me back when I interviewed Brendan from Wheatus.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I was all over your Instagram and I saw a lot of stuff. I'm like, you're going to be a great guy to talk to, and you delivered. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. Sorry, I think I had to reschedule you last time, but I don't remember what it was. But let me know when this comes out, and I will put it out everywhere.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, man. Take care, brother. Bye-bye.
Okay, take care.